In Chapter 2, we're going to be using our calculator to help us find our measures of variation and our central tendencies. And what we're going to do is, first of all, start by turning on the calculator. And then what you do if you are in an area that you don't want to be in, you can always hit second and quit, and that gets you out of any test you don't want to be in. And if you hit clear, that brings you back to a blank screen. Now notice that you have a button here called the Stat button. And there's quite a bit of stuff in there that you'll be using this semester. And so I want you to hit the Stat button. And to make a list, to put data into a list, we're going to hit 1 or just hit enter. Either way will get you that edit. We're going to edit a list. So I'm going to hit enter since 1 is highlighted, although I can arrow up and down and choose other options, but I'm going to hit edit right here. Now, if you have a used calculator, or if you've been using this for other classes, you might have information that are in lists. So I'm going to go to list 1, and before I enter any information in a list, I want to make sure I clear it. So I hit that up arrow to highlight L1. So notice that L1 is now highlighted, so I can deal with that one. Do not hit delete. That will actually delete list 1. What you do instead is hit clear. Notice it doesn't give you anything down here until you do enter, and now the list is cleared out. You should always start by clearing a list before you enter any more data into it. Now I'm also going to go over and do list 2. I'm going to arrow over, arrow up so that it's highlighted, and now I'm going to hit clear and then enter. Okay, so now I'm going to go back to list 1, and I'm going to enter in just some numbers. And so these aren't going to mean anything. I'm just going to hit the number 8, and when I have a data already entered, I hit enter, and then 6, enter, 5, enter, 9, enter, 2, enter. So that is my first list of numbers. Notice down here it says L1 and 6. That means that this would be my 6th entry. Notice I entered 5 numbers. And if I arrow back up, this would be my 5th entry, my 4th entry, and so on. All right, once you're done entering that data, you don't have to quit out of here or anything. You can just hit your Stat button one more time. Now I can arrow over to calculate. It automatically highlights 1 var stats. And that's what we're going to be using in Chapter 2. So I'm going to hit enter. And then I need to tell it which list I want it to calculate on. Notice right above the 1 is L1. Above the 2 is L2. And continuing on, all your lists are located right here on the number pad. Anything written in gold, you need to hit the yellow button to get. Some of your calculators will have that in blue, so you'd hit the second. If it's blue or gold, doesn't matter, and then the 1, and it'll bring up L1. Now I hit enter again, and it brings up all my data. X bar is the mean. This is the sum of the x's, so it adds up all of the data that I put in that list. The sum of the x squared, so it squares all the values and then adds them up. These two you will not be using that much. Sx is the sample standard deviation. Sigma x is the population standard deviation. So if it was just a sample taken from a bigger population, you'd use SX, and that's pretty much, that's the normal one you would be using. But if you know it's the entire population, you'd give this as the standard deviation. N is 5. N is the number in my sample. And notice there's a down arrow. That means there's more information here. So I'm going to press my down arrow and see what else it has here for me. Minimum X, so the smallest number in my data set. Q1 is a quartile 1. Median. Median is the same as quartile 2. And you don't get into this until the next chapter, but good to know that it's here and that it's really easy to get. Quartile 3, 8.5, and then the maximum value in my list. So the calculator does quite a bit for you just with the one variable stats, and you can arrow up and down to get anywhere within that list. Anytime you see the down arrow, you'll know that you have more information, and always arrow down and make sure you have all the information that the calculator can get you. If you want to do another calculation, you can just hit Stat and it takes you out of there, or second, Quit and Clear if you want to start with a clear screen.